Look at that. You already have your instruments.
All ready to go. Can you turn them up a bit?
Give me a second. Speaker. Okay. So we have Simon, Jen, and Fred.
Yeah.
All right. Chris is where? Behind the couch?
Yeah, he's so far behind the couch, he's not even in the room. But yeah, he's coming from another gig, and that's the way it is with drummers on demand, you know.
Listen, I didn't want to put down any drummers, but you went there, so.
Hi, the following podcast is brought to you by Radical Road Brewery, the best craft beer in the heart of Leslieville. Find them at 1177 Queen Street East. That's Radical Road Brewery.
Hi, I'm Jen.
I'm Simon.
I'm Fred.
And we are Neon Bloom, and you are listening to and or watching
Welcome to the music.
Perfect. Welcome. We're very excited to have you on today. One of the first things I wanted to start off with was I was listening to your two EPs, and I think it's two singles, if I'm not mistaken. Is the variety of sound? Like I'd like to explore that, because it's like everything from, like, I hear sort of late 70s sort of post punk almost into new wave kind of thing, to chill, to like almost like pop punk ish. I mean, it's just it's a variety, and I'd love to explore sort of where that comes from, and where, you know, where does your sound or your variety of sounds come from?
Well, I think I mean, Chris isn't here, our drummer, but all four of us have slightly different tastes and genres that we're inspired by. For myself, it's definitely, like, you nailed it with like 70s post-punk, and I like punk and rock and stuff like that. That's where I'm coming from. And then you guys, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I love that stuff too. I like a lot of electronic music, more like 90s alt rock, maybe like grunge, or like Radiohead kind of 90s stuff. Got into used to play in jazz band and whatnot. So we have a lot of different influences. I think some of it, like when you're talking about the EPs that we have, like one of the EPs we recorded at home, like during the quarantine. That one was the most recent one. So it kind of just sounds way different, because it's like no one had really space to record like loud drums and guitars or whatever, like at home that easily. So we're like, okay, we'll use, you know, more synthesizers or drum machines and that kind of stuff. So some of it's just sort of experimenting in just different circumstances.
Yeah, the energy was definitely really different on Still Life, on that EP. That was the COVID EP. So yeah, very like more like low key, kind of almost reminded me of like soundtrack. One of the songs, Bullet in Tomorrow, has like a very soundtrack type of feel to me. And like Fred, what do you?
Yeah, as they say, necessity is the mother of invention, and we had to become I guess, with the confines we were dealing with things shut down, studio spaces shut down. We were recording in our bedrooms, and some of it was done in correspondence, with sending tracks back and forth. So we became intuitive with what we had, and maybe for that reason, some moodier or electronic kind of textures pushed their way to the forefront, and it was a great thing. And I'm really glad you hear that variety within our catalog. And I think we're only just like peeking through of what we, given the time and resources, what we would love to bring into the world, because our influences are so vast, and the synergy that comes together when we mix these influences gets really exciting.
Nice.
Absolutely. That's great.
Are you guys like sitting across Times Square, where you guys are? Like I'm getting this cool color vibe happening on the door behind all these colors.
As you know, we're neon bloom, so we got to have that neon vibe going on.
Nice.
But, I got these funky LED strip lights that I got going on in the bedroom. So thought we would bust those out for our welcome to the music.
Nice. Look at that. So where does the name come from? I mean, that's a killer name for a band.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That was
It didn't jump right out at us. We were going. We had notepads and
we had a long
names,
list of names that
sitting in sneaky D's, trying to think of the best name that wasn't taken yet. And
yeah.
I think we were like any like forget about it one word if it's already taken. You have to have like a collision of two words that weren't usually put together,
yeah.
and. I think we just like the imagery of the words, neon, like kind of nightlife and, colors and maybe supporting the kind of electronic synthy element that our band brings to the table. And bloom, life, like we didn't want it too dark, and I don't think we could deny a little bit of Nirvana love there with bloom. I think that it came with the territory.
Yeah.
What names got left on the floor?
I'm trying to remember. While he was saying, I was trying to remember.
We were like, I think Static Blue.
I think did that one.
Yeah, they're cringeworthy now.
Yeah,
There were some combinations. I mean, some were cool, and then we had to like look online. No, it's already taken. People won't believe like what's taken.
Oh man. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So how did the three of you get together, or I guess the four of you, but you three here?
Yeah. So Chris is not here, but
yeah. So there used to be a site called Down to Jam, and it was set up almost like how
Down to Jam.
Down to Jam. It was a website. Yeah, like Jenny says, it was like a dating site as like
for musicians,
but
not dating.
Greg used to go on that other website. What was Down to what? Greg used to tell me about it all the time.
That's a whole other thing.
That's another show. That's another show.
That's another show altogether. But no, it's too bad this site doesn't exist anymore because
it was great.
It was perfectly designed. Like if I could have, put my wish list of how a site would be designed, just had it all. You could upload your audio links, photos of yourself, and then it went right down videos, and right down to the detail, genres, and even how serious. Like how often would you jam? Ideally, like
1 to 3 times a week,
and
once a month.
It was really well designed. Anyhow, it didn't survive, but. Jenny was on there. I was on there. We matched. We swiped right to each other.
We met up in person.
Did we meet up in person?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we jammed. We got along well.
Yeah. So we were like, okay, let's pursue this, and then
second date.
And then Simon. No, Chris. Chris would.
I suggested Chris as we tried to assemble more members. I suggested Chris. I had jammed with him once, but he stepped out of my mind as a great drummer and just a great guy that we got on the same vibe together. And then we put a posting, I think, in Craigslist, looking for a guitarist and
lucked out.
Yeah, lucked out. Yeah, some talented.
I didn't know about Down to Jam.
Keyboardist and guitar.
Yeah, we never knew we would have bumped into a musical wizard of Simon, but there were like some really talented people that replied, and we jammed with them. They were great, but Simon just stood out above the rest, and yeah.
That's great, and that was like what a year or 2 years before.
This was over 5 years ago.
Oh, that was over 5 years ago. Okay.
Yeah, but
okay, I didn't realize you guys have been playing that long.
Those are the blank years, the 2 years that were lost in the void, the black hole. But
yeah, it's just a blur. It's just a blur.
So when you guys meet, like, how do you what do you jam to? Is there an interview that what bands do you like? What music do you play? Who did you play with? Like, how does that start? And how do you know? I guess Jen and Fred that. Simon and Chris were going to be a good combination.
It's like a collision of like a date So like the chemistry aspect of like a date almost with a job interview. So you're kind of like, because you want to be serious, you're going to invest a lot of time in it and you want it to work. And so there's like a lot of like, there's a very practical side to it of like, okay, how committed are you? How much are you going to put into this? Are we on the same level? If not, nope. Like we had to say no to some people. We're like, okay, bye. Like that's not going to work. And then there's this other side of like, do you get along as people? Because you have to spend a lot of time together. We've traveled together. We've had to, you really have to get along. And then there's also like the musical chemistry that has to be there. And you can just tell when it isn't. Like when you're out on a date, like you just know when it's working, when it's not working. And we got really lucky, yeah. So with 4 people, it's very tricky to navigate everything over several years. And yeah,
I believe Jenny and I showed Simon like just some rough sketches of tunes we had, and just like quickly shouted out what we were doing, and Simon just fell into place because he's well skilled and just following along, and just a jam, just a riff over a line over and over, and that's how. As I remember, I think we met Simon, and I think Jenny and I met Simon, and it went well. And then I was really hoping that Chris could come up for a jam, because if Simon were on the fence with Jenny and I thought if Chris came out on drums, it would sell Simon on the idea. So
okay. Yeah, so you guys were recruiting Simon.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when we realized how good he is.
Okay. So Simon, before Neon Bloom, what were you up to? What was your musical journey?
Well, like I started in piano lessons,
Okay, yeah.
Chinese parents. So I started in piano lessons, and did that for a while. I just got bored with it eventually. Was like, yeah, I want to start learning guitar. And I was playing, like Green Day and then Blink-182 and that kind of stuff was like kind of my first entry into it. And then, I just sort of stuck with it. That was probably around, I don't know, middle school or something. I was like, I'm not doing piano anymore. I'm playing guitar. And, just sort of kept at it. I did some busking and stuff. I used to live in Vancouver. I did some busking there. I did a bit of busking here. I was playing in another band at the time called Paper Parachutes. And that was kind of more of like a soul funk band, which I really loved that kind of sound too.
Okay.
But I was feeling like, it'd be fun to do something that was like a little bit louder, a little bit more intense, kind of, more of a like rock kind of sound. I was just browsing Craigslist, I guess, just seeing like, hey, who's out there, and like, or just to try and find people to jam with. Like I've actually found a few groups of people on Craigslist. We rent like a jam space. You just show up, you jam for a few hours. It was fun, right? So okay. I would go to, I don't know, I just kind of looked for people that seemed cool and wanted to play music, and found these guys. And the first jam was weird, but I was like, I think there's potential here. Like I'll come back. I'll come back to jam again with the drummer. And it definitely brought it together. So I think we were just sitting in this room, like playing guitar and stuff, and it's like, I don't know, for a rock band, you never really, you just got to be loud. There's got to be drums going and stuff. Like you can't really get a sense for what it's actually going to be until you kind of get into that setting,
Sure.
So, right. But I think once we had that first like full jam, I was like, this is cool. I'll stick around for this. And actually, for the listeners at home, I would say I've had very good luck on Craigslist finding people. Yeah. But what it's worth, I don't know why. I don't know if that's just my personal experience. But
and for what it's worth, I find Craigslist very creepy. If you're a woman, it's like just don't even go near.
Oh, I can't even. It's like LinkedIn. It's like I can't even imagine what it's like for you on various platforms.
Yeah, I think even like, I'm not sure at this time, but going back 5 years and before then, it was very common in Toronto that projects were being built on Craigslist. Maybe things have changed as they do in 5 years, but very, very common. And it's very, the whole Toronto downtown is so active with bands forming and really good bands, and so many live venues that are supporting that for sure, and promotion crews. Absolutely.
Okay, hold on. I was going to go like, Jen, tell me your story. Fred, tell me your story. But I want to stop on there, Fred. So you're saying that today there's huge support locally for bands?
There is. It's people got to work really hard. Like the
Sure.
promoters, doing it online, postering, working the venues, organizing, drawing the crowds. So it's very active. It's very active. You got when you talk about bringing in the crowds to fill up the rooms. There's decent support. Like you really got to work for it at every point. I think if everyone's doing their job well, then yeah, the support is there. But you do got to work to fill up those rooms. But the support is there. Yes, there are. Even after the pandemic, we've lost a number of venues, but there still are plenty of good venues in the downtown and just outside the downtown of Toronto.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think it's a popular thing to do. That's you talk to people, 20s, 30s, 40s. Like that's what they want to do. Check a show, check a punk show, a hip hop show, a rock show, jazz. There's everything, and people. I think it's a lot. There's been a shift. I think even from the days, like still, of course, DJ clubs and that are still popular. But I think now there's been a little bit of a shift that it's a cool thing to do to check out the good bands.
And you've worked with Save Toronto Music Venues, right? And Instagram that group, and I know with Bitch Fest. So, can you talk about the importance of groups like that and everybody working together?
Yeah, so it's super important, and I know Ashley pretty well, who started Save Toronto Music Venues, and I know she reached out during COVID, like during the lockdown period, and I just call it COVID. Like, I don't know if you know what I mean, but yeah.
The blur.
Yeah, she reached out and they were making these t-shirts and she's starting up the company before we were back playing live. And I thought it was a great idea. And just like, it's been interesting to see it grow. And then once venues were open and we were playing again, she started booking shows. We've played several of them now, including Bitch Fest. And yeah, when you go to these shows, it really like fosters a sense of community. When you're there, like people really, it gives them something to latch onto, I think, instead of just being like, oh, there's 10 different places I could go tonight. I don't know, maybe I'll stay home. There's a bit more incentive to go to the same shows, like see the same bands, actually show up, support. When you have these other people more from like a business side of things, pushing it and organizing it and making the t-shirts, making the compilations and all of that. Like it really helps the band a lot and the venues. And yeah, I think it's great what she's done. So
I think it's fantastic.
And I would extend from there to say when a production crew does a great job, then even if they're putting on a bill and you may not be familiar with the bands, they've built that reputation, so you'll have a bit of faith. Well, Save Toronto Music Venues is putting on a show tonight. It's, I think they've put on a great show. All the other times that I've seen, I don't recognize these bands, but I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt that you're going to do a good show. It's going to be good. You're going to see familiar faces there. So that's what that reputation you get with these good promoters.
Yeah, it's also the shows are more cohesive because I find what I can't stand is when we play a show and it's like 4 bands and none of them should play together because it makes no sense. Like you're just like, I would not watch this band or this band or this band together. Like I would never I don't think anyone would like all these bands. So it's kind of like a waste of people.
They're well curated. With these production.
Yeah, you know what you're getting. You're probably gonna like most of the bands. It's a theme. Like it's not some random assortment of like pop and R&B and hardcore and rock. Like you're like, what is that? But that happens a lot, I find. I don't know why, but it does. With smaller venues, it tends to happen. Unless there's somebody who really cares and is organizing it and putting effort into.
Okay.
I don't mind smorgasbord sometimes, but that's just me.
I do not like this one.
So Jen and Fred, you've toured, you've been in the business for a while. What is it about Toronto? It's still vibrant because I don't know, the sense I got, maybe Gregg, you have a different sense, but sometimes the sense I get is outside of the bigger venues, like it's a tough slog for young bands in this city.
Yeah, I agree. I think I only have just a basic understanding of what it's like in other cities, but there is the the broad spectrum in Toronto, from super venues and all the way down to the small little venues. So I think there's a spot for everyone at different levels to get started, and it may be an off night, but there's a spot for everyone. And but what keeps it vibrant? Well, I mean, I think just because there's a concentration of people, there's the outside chance that you're going to get some accidental traffic, or there are people, especially in the warmer months, passing on the street and just looking to jump in somewhere to catch some entertainment. And so there is, you will get that factor. And maybe because if you have friends in the downtown area, they don't have to transverse so far just to catch your show. They can, just stumble out of their house and walk in distance for a streetcar in this downtown core, be it, the College Street, Dundas, Queen Street, and the cross streets. It's a little bit of a hub, and people can pair it together with other things going on in the night. So it's not like one thing driving out to the middle of nowhere to catch that show, driving back. No, I think there's that fluidity that happens in the Toronto downtown. So that would be like some of my shots from the hip to think what keeps the live music alive in Toronto. But it's just that. And in Toronto, I think almost there aren't so many cities that Toronto every night of the week there's something going on in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It could be Tuesday night. People ask me what's going on. It's a Monday night. I could tell them what's going on, because there's places there's just places that people are just hanging out, and especially in the warmer nights. But now they have these patios that line the sides of the street all over Toronto. So there's just people hanging out. So there's always something going on. People hanging out and people getting out of their houses, and so that is a factor.
Yeah, I do find it frustrating though in Toronto when there's a lot of these small venues and you play them over and over and over again, and it's fun and it's great, but it's like you get to this certain point and then there's the Phoenix or like these bigger places, and it's like, how do you get from here to there? And that's where I'm continuously feel stuck as a performer. Like we end up at this place where it's like, I personally feel like sometimes we're spinning our wheels, and I'm like, okay, what's next? Like, what do we do next? Where do you go from there? And I feel like we're kind of lacking some support for bands in that way, like in terms of growth, like past a certain point, what do you do?
Yeah.
It'd be nice if there was, I don't know, some I don't know, like a program, like some governmental program or like something where they kind of like help you out, or like mentoring, or like, I know there are some programs like that, but they seem very niche and like difficult to get into. And there's a lot of bands here. So it's, I wish there was just like an easier way to know what to do next. That didn't require, thousands of people applying for the same thing and most of them not getting it. And then just that where you started. That's where I'm frustrated with Toronto, because I feel like we have the resources to do a better job. So that's my complaint. But I do love all the venues that we play, and I'll keep playing them. Sure. I enjoy it, but it does get a bit frustrating.
So you had the chance to play on the Lemon stage at El Macombo.
That was amazing. Yeah, that's a great example of sort of like in between where they're kind of pushing new artists, and it's a great venue. It's amazing.
The Lemon Stage did a great job.
That was
thoroughly impressed.
Yeah, that was excellent. I'm sure there's a bit more of that going on.
Okay.
Really. Like that, like really like more support for our artists, because it is important to have artists in Toronto and to keep them going, like to give them a little to give back to them a bit, even though I know some people don't agree with that. I do. Like, I firmly believe in supporting the arts and trying to keep people's careers going and helping them grow, because it actually is such a payoff if people do well, right? It's good for the city. It's good for everybody. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're heading to. You just played. Let's talk about you've just recently played at the Bovine Sex Club, right?
We're about to.
You're about to.
On
Next
Sunday.
weekend. Yeah.
Sorry, when was that?
This coming Sunday.
This coming Sunday, November 13th.
Okay, awesome.
And that is the Save Toronto Music Venues production.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. So there are some of these things like Save Toronto Venues, like Lemon Stage, that sort of help foster that. Is sort of, okay, how do we get to that next, the bigger venue, the next step up. I'm curious what you guys are going to be playing Japan, correct?
That's right.
So where does that fit in? And where I'm going with this is Gregg and I recently have had some conversations, with people that have, written about Canadian artists that just go to Europe or go to Asia, and they literally, they're huge there. And you ask people in Toronto, you go, yeah, I never heard of them. Well, you go over to, I don't know, anywhere like Finland, and they're like a massive band. They sell out everywhere they play. So I'm curious about, number one, this trip to Japan, how you got that, and what's happening there, and your thoughts around, is Toronto the be all and end all, or are there thoughts of, maybe we go to Europe or Asia and see what's going on there?
Yeah. So the whole tour with Japan started with a festival that came in front of us. Now, when you're in these email loops or social media, there's going to be a whole bunch of festivals. Apply to this one, apply to that one. It could be in LA, it could be in UK or wherever it was. And this one in Japan came in front of us. And sometimes it's you throw your hat in, or you fill in the blanks, shoot them up. And to our pleasant surprise, we got accepted to this festival in Tokyo. So, okay, that's awesome. Now I was going to need a little bit more backing and to justify us going all the way across the world. So, thankfully, the promoters of the festival, we got in a chat with them, and they put us in contact with a booker in Japan.
Okay.
And we worked out an arrangement with the booker to book out a string of shows that could fill it out, that would justify a whole trip to Japan, rather than, because we're only going to play one show at this. We're headlining thank goodness, night one of the nights at this festival, but
awesome.
And we wanted to see more of Japan, so we chatted with this booker, and she's just been great, and we've we booked a few shows throughout Japan to make it a proper little mini tour, and so that's where we go. And by no means are we famous in Japan, but it's kind of just like priming that engine. You gotta get out there. Like, we can play Toronto so many times, but we got to get out to Montreal or to the States or, wherever, just to make some noise and buzz and make a story, and hopefully come back with some of that buzz, and hopefully we can bring it back to Toronto with us. So, yeah, but I do think Toronto is a good nurturing hub for musicians, but it's no surprise that artists look out elsewhere to gain some traction, because you're going to plateau, and then it's time to reset and see if you can make some noise in other areas.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because the book, I'm trying to remember the name of the book again. I'm on my COVID shot, a little dizzy, but Michael Barclay's book, and he does talk about, I think, Jen, you've talked about it, that Peaches is a influence of yours, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And in the book, there's a whole chapter about Peaches and Chili Gonzalez, and basically Toronto and Canadian musicians that went to Feist, that went over to Europe, and then became massive in Europe.
Right.
Yeah. For sure. That's what I find such a shame, is that we lose so much Canadian talent to the Europe or the US, because why would they stay here if they're not able to make a career of it? They put so much time and money into it. If someone's going to give them what they need, they're gonna leave. Like that's what I find frustrating. I really feel like I love Canada, but that's like one of the downsides here is like not enough support for our artists, and it goes for like the technology sector too. Like they're trying to change that now, but like so many different areas, we just need to like put more in to these people and into our talent, wherever that is, whatever area. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's, I think a lot of it's just a function of our population. I mean,
Sure.
Our population of Canada is the same as California. So how would we imagine we're going to, compete just to stay in Canada? But I think, it's just a matter of numbers that in Europe or US, there is going to be, more people to support the shows. And so and sometimes it's just I think to get a fresh new look. I mean, all the way back to the time of Jimi Hendrix, of course, he's massive. He would end up being massive in the States, but he didn't get there until he did his little jaunt in England. So sometimes I think just to get that fresh air is the case. And little countries sometimes punch above their belt, and I think Canada does that, from big pop stars to indie rockers, and we do that, as do other countries like Iceland or these other. But it's no surprise that sometimes we got to spend some dues in the bigger hubs like the States or Europe.
Yeah, for sure. So moving topics a bit, one of the conversations that we have with a number of artists is around the LP versus EP versus singles. So I'd love to get your view on, having released 2 EPs and a few singles, sort of that, today's, where we're at today in terms of music distribution, the way people are listening to music, and your choice to go the EP route versus LP. And I don't, maybe this plans out, I don't know.
Simon,
yeah.
All right, Simon.
We've never released an LP, right? As we've released 2 EPs,
right.
We've released a few singles. I think it's difficult now to justify doing a whole LP. It's expensive, right? To spend the time to record that many songs, a lot of studio time, and if you want to promote all the songs or like a number of the songs in the album, it's just if you want to make music videos and all that stuff. It's just like a big task, right? To get all of that done, you're pushing it all towards like one kind of release date where it's all going to happen. Like the nice thing about singles and EPs, I think, for independent artists, is just you can just sort of like bite off little chunks at a time, right? Like it's not that difficult to get money together for 1 or 2 studio days, right? Whereas maybe it is difficult to get 2 weeks or something, right? And it's like people got to take lots of time off work, and it's just difficult to plan like such a big project, like doing an LP and giving it the promotion and stuff. Whereas, and with people's attention spans what they are today, like people like videos, people like shorter content on average, right? Like even if you release an album, most people aren't going to sit and listen to the whole album, right? So I think within the band, we don't necessarily totally agree on.
I want to do an album.
Jen loves albums.
I like liner notes. I want a bunch of artwork. But it's not happening right now.
I think Simon's on board. Jenny and I we're romantics. We love the long play, the album. Vinyl. Just those things are just life changing, and they, but. Simon says you need the resources, the time, the money to properly back an album, whereas with a little bit restrictions, you can still back an EP in the bite size. So yes, our goal is definitely to do the album, and we're working our way towards that. But in the time leading up to that, we had to get stuff on the get it on the scoreboard, and we want to get some material out there, show that we're alive. So we're doing these EPs, and we're doing our little short films before we get up to the big feature, if you will. And we've got to have the resources to do it properly, or else it's not going to be done right. So it is going to come. We're working our way up there, and I think it's no surprise.
Yeah,
Nice.
and it makes sense from I don't even think it's working a way up to long play I mean, there's a number of bands, I think in this band I use regularly, like if I look at Alexis on Fire, that have really moved towards the singles and the,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and the EPs versus doing out. I mean, they did the full album or the one that's coming out, I guess, but or that's out. But yeah, no, it's I mean, it's today's model, right? It's about getting songs out regularly, and you can do that with fun and exuberance and push it, versus you're right, spending weeks in the studio.
Yeah, and if we spent like 2 or 3 years working on an album and like release nothing in between, like we'd probably kill each other, and I think people forget that we exist, right? Kind of, right? Like you want to always sort of be reminding people, like, hey, we were here, here's a new song, here's a new video, right?
Yeah.
In a funny way, it's almost back to the late 50s, early 60s when it was just singles. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I think in a time where you had the record label support with record sales, and record labels are like, guys, take some time off of work, get in the studio, get us that full album. They could do that, but I mean, for people at our level, we don't have that support where we have to work our day jobs, which we all do, and so yeah, we can't just take a month off of work and do a full album in the studio, but that's what we're aiming for.
All right.
Excellent.
Good.
Excellent. It's funny because you mentioned about the day jobs, and it's a question that I wanted to ask Fred. It's interesting because as I guess creeping you is probably the best way I could put it while I was doing the research for this conversation. You actually work with a number of other artists, including former Welcome to the Music guest Nicole Simone in your day job. You're in the production side of things as well.
Yeah, I'm a videographer and photographer, and I've done a lot of music videos. So I've been fortunate to work with awesome artists in Toronto and brought her into Canada. Yeah, for sure.
Great, that's great.
And I've worked with Nicole, and not even in the music world, but we've done some TV series and short films and stuff. So we get along creatively. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So Tangerine is off of the most recent release, Still Life. Love the video. You guys are not in it, but I'm guessing someone had to go to Cuba.
Twist my rubber arm, yeah. Again, this was this EP, Still Life, was done during the lockdown, even the hardest times of the lockdown. And we had started some of the musical ideas before the lockdown, and I was about to do a travel trip, a pleasure trip to Havana, and of course I'm not going to Havana without bringing up my camera because it's so photogenic with everything going on. It's just a time capsule if there ever were one at this time, but. So I did have the idea, and it was deliberate. I said I'm going to shoot a lot of footage, and I think it could be good for one of our mellower tracks. So that I'm going to shoot it in a way cinematic, if you will, but stuff that I thought, well, I'm going to catch some things, and I do think that I had Tangerine was in my mind, but I can't be certain of that. But I do think it was that. But this trip anyway, it was right at the precipice of the pandemic. I was there as February turned into March of 2020. We even had to get we had to cut our trip short. I was with some friends. We were there to celebrate a friend's birthday, and we cut our trip short because we saw the pandemic was really coming on strong, and it didn't look good. So we said we better get out of here because there's going to be just a mass exodus. So that happened at that time. But I shot the footage, and we cut it up in just like a montage, of imagery. I think that just thought provoking as you listen to this chill, dreamy tune.
Nice. Gregg was talking earlier about different sounds that he hears from the music. Novocaine, there's some rap in it, there's some scratching in it.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration, with this production specifically?
For Novocaine?
Yeah.
I think I had like this weird, like it was like a steel pan sound on this little keyboard that I have, and I had like a loop on there that I was like playing around with, and I think Jen liked it. Or something.
I like the steel pan. Yeah, I like the feeling of it. For some reason, it just kept rapping. Like every time we jam it, I was like, I don't know why. I just have to like rap on it.
Yeah.
It was
a bit weird,
It was
but
quite interesting. Yeah, I mean, Simon had brought it up. He was playing it over this hip hop loop, this steel pan bit. And I thought it was really colorful, and we deliver. I remember we were jamming, and we, in our own inner circle, we were debating, well, could Neon Bloom pull off hip hop? Because I mean, that's not our home ground, but we said, yeah, if we do it tastefully and in a cool way. And Jenny just, she delivered with conviction, and it really sounded cool. So we're like, yeah, I think if we can do this confidently, we could pull it off. So we fell in, but yeah, that was Simon developed the foundation of the song, and I think he even changed keys at one point, so he could drop it down for Jenny to execute the hip hop flavor delivery properly. And
we got your friend, what's his name?
Yeah, my friend Mark Cruz, a friend from high school. So as the song was coming along, I don't know, it just dawned on me. I bumped into an old high school friend I hadn't seen in a long time, and he's an established scratcher with vinyl, and I said, "Hey, Mark, I got this track. Would you like to do some scratching over?" And he said, "Yeah." So he's in Calgary. We sent him the track, and I think he gave us some samples, and we're like, "Yeah, more of that," and just really cool, like very classic style scratching, of late 80s kind of scratching that he did, and so it really turned out well, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Song sounds great. I understand you guys have a song prepared.
Yes.
Tell us what song are you going to play, and let's talk a little bit about it before you guys play it.
Okay, the song is called Say When. And it's a relatively new song. We're actually planning to record it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks. Yeah. So with David Plowman in Toronto. So we're really looking forward to that. We're going to be recording Say When and another track as well. This is one of my favorites of all our songs, probably. It's for me, it's very emotional, and it's got this very grungy kind of feeling. Obviously, we're doing an acoustic version right now, so it's quite different than what we would normally do. But yeah, I'm quite attached to this song lyrically and emotionally. It's for me, it's about family and betrayal. It's a bit dark, which I like, but yeah, it's very Shakespearean, and it relates to my own personal experiences. So it's cathartic, like a lot of lyrics I like to write. And yeah, I find that for myself, when the songs are more personal, I really get behind them more. Yeah.
Oh, this is amazing. This is like the universal debut.
Yes.
Of this song, Say When.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
What? This is awesome. Greg, we should NFT this episode, maybe.
There you go.
We'll share the pro. I don't even know how that works.
Just say when, 'cause where we've gone, it's not where we're from. Stay a while. put on a smile. Such violence and silence. Don't tell me you lost something great. I've never been so, never been so alone. Say when you say when I can't believe these falling leaves. We stayed a while, put on a smile. Such violence and silence. Don't tell me you lost something wrong. I've never been so, never been so I've never been so, I've never been so alone. Say when, now. Say when, a sister say when, no. A brother say when, now. I never heard you say when, no. I never heard you say, 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 I'll show you who lost something love. I've never been so, never been so alone as wrong. I've never been so, never been so. Say when, say when. Say when, sister say when, a brother say when, no. I never heard you say, I never heard you say
Oh, come on!
Fantastic.
Hey!
Fantastic.
Thank you
So
so much.
Brandon out the drums.
Oh man, that was a killer tune.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jeez.
Thank you.
Oh man. Oh, damn, that was good. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to the music.
Ah,
That was
jeez.
fun, man. That was fun.
What the?
I think with your PJ shirt, I think you can appreciate some territories we're exploring.
That was
Yeah.
awesome. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Jeez, that was the best. All right, I didn't know where to go from here. That was phenomenal. Thank you, honestly. Thank you so much for playing that for us.
Oh, thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
That was a killer song. Damn. Okay, we're sort of wrapping up here. Let's do this quickly. But you were asked a while back your favorite music venue in Toronto, and I don't know who answered this, but Horseshoe Tavern came
Horseshoe
up.
Tavern. Yep.
But this question we want to ask you is your favorite lost venue, and maybe it's different for each of you.
Mhm.
But what's your not necessarily your favorite lost venue, but maybe there's a lost venue that you've got a crappy story, a funny story, a great story, but these venues no longer exist. So I'm curious. Maybe we'll start with Jen on this one. What's your, you have a lost venue story?
My favorite was definitely Silver Dollar,
Yeah.
which I keep hearing it's coming back and all that stuff. But I love the old Silver Dollar. I loved it. I played cut my teeth there. Is that the expression where you know, like I started playing there in 2007, I guess. That was the one of the earliest shows I ever did with a full band. It was an all-girl punk band, and we played there a lot. Dan Burke did a lot of the booking, and yeah, we were always at the Silver Dollar, either watching shows or playing or supporting our friends' bands. And yeah, it was just such a great space, and it was a really great time with the bands that were going on at that time as well. And I'm kind of feeling like it's similar now, like all these years later. It's sort of like feeling about kind of the same again, in terms of, you know, the quality of the band and the style and the everything, and the support. That was a big thing that was happening at that time, I found, and Silver Dollar was a major part of that. So for me, I just have excellent memories of playing there. Yeah.
All right. Simon, do you have one?
I think the one that sticks out to me is the Central, which was used to be near like the Honest Ed's, like Burbage Village.
Yeah.
It was part of that, so it got torn down a few years ago or whatever when they did that whole redevelopment there. I guess it sticks to me. That was the first place I ever played in Toronto.
Okay.
And it was actually not a great show. I think we were supposed to play. I think we were told, we were like, oh yeah, we were on last, and we were supposed to play at like 11 or something that night. And then the schedule was just like drastically behind time. I don't think we even got to play till like 12:30 or like 1 a.m. Like all my friends were pissed. They're like, dude, like what, like. I'm like, I don't know, we're supposed to go on next. Like, I don't know, like, what's going on, right? And like, and I was just confused with the whole situation. So, yeah, that was kind of a memorable one for me. And I only played there that one time, and now it's gone.
Oh, man.
So no chance to redeem myself. And
No.
go back, I guess.
Oh, geez. Fred, what about yourself?
Yeah, well, I can echo though, you know, when Jen mentions the Silver Dollar of old, that was a place, and through Dan Burke, that if he would do so much research to bring in bands from everywhere, Canada, the States, Europe, Asia, and that was a cutting edge place, and Dan would foresee these bands getting big, and that was a place to play. And if you got to play at the Silver Dollar, you knew you had proved yourself. And even Simon and I, like, we would catch. I remember we watched Japanese Breakfast play a small show there, and you know, before they would become huge, and many other bands that would go on to do bigger things. You would see them play the Silver Dollar. So yeah, that place definitely shed a tear. I mean, it's there. It's a new venue. They slicked it up. We'll have to see. I haven't seen them open their doors up to bands yet, but we'll see. Maybe they got a turnaround story like the Elmo Combo in a way. We'll have to see. The Central was cool too. It was like a big old mansion, really, and you'd go up the stairs. They'd have stages, and you know, it was a really cool spot. The old Mervis Village. So that too was a great place. I like that. My most beloved venue of all time was the Boat. It was just very smaller shows, but really well curated in the Kensington Market. It really had the vibe of Kensington Market. The Boat. Anyone was accepted there. It's a small venue for someone who hasn't gone there, but it was designed like the inside of a hull of a boat with porthole windows and like very wooden, and it was good. There were some DIY type of venues that I missed that didn't survive, but Soy Bomb, for everyone who's been in the underground scene of Toronto, Soy Bomb was a kind of a punk venue on Bathurst Street, and it was like almost a speakeasy vibe, and the bands would play in the big half pipe, and it was really cool. It was right out of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kind of clubhouse venue. I gotta say, man, and this would echo across the city, we just recently after a big fight, we lost Cherry Colas on Bathurst Street, and we know Matt Groupie had put up a big fight with a lot of shows that were, like try to fundraising shows to save the venue through the pandemic. But it's so hard, and some of these live venues that support live venues or live music a few nights a week, they survive on such a margin of profit that's very slight, and to take it away for months on end. Yeah, so Cherry Colas, man, RIP to that one. It had a vibe, man. The deco in there all red and kind of really classic, really looked like out of a, I don't know, Wes Anderson like type of vibe in that one. So I can name a few. I can go on and on. So many spots went by the wayside, but yeah, a good topic.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because my office, when I was with a startup back in 2016, was right across from Cherry Colas, and it was certainly a venue that my son frequented regularly at that time. He just absolutely loved it. So one of the questions I'd like to ask before we wrap things up is what's in your ears lately? What are you listening to that people should be checking out? I'd love to throw it over to, let's start with Simon, and if you can just give a band or an artist that you're listening to that people should be checking out.
I've really been listening to this band called Parcels a lot. It's like an Australian band. They're kind of like very soul, funk, like retro, but just incredible. I saw them at Massey Hall with Chris actually earlier this year, and that was probably the best show I've been to this year. I really like this other band called Ginger Root, which is kind of like electronic, soulful, a little bit video gamey. I don't know how to describe it, but those would be my two picks.
Excellent. Jen?
Lately I've been really stressed out, so I've been listening. I just moved and went through all this, still going through the moving stages. So I've been listening to Django Reinhardt, super mellow, and it's like really like brings me down.
All right.
Melodic, super cool. For people who haven't listened to Django Reinhardt, check it out. And or when I'm driving, I like to listen to Elastica, who I was obsessed with all through high school when I was a kid and stuff. So I'm like right back into listening to Elastica again. Cool. One of the best Britpop bands in my opinion. If they fit in that category, it was around that time, all the Britpop stuff. I just love them. Yeah. Every song is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Fred?
Just recently I checked out a show. I was quite impressed by band Bonnie Trash, a Toronto band. I checked them out at a Wavelength event, and I was quite impressed with them. And they played with the Twin Rains, who are a very cool band from Toronto, a duo with some dream pop. So them amongst other local bands. Not too long ago, I checked out John Orpheus, who combined some Afro beats with rock and roll, with soul, and just a really nice collision of music there. And man, I've been impressed by a lot of the peers coming out of Toronto and my Toronto group of friends. So I can go on with so some of them, and I dig in on the downloads and streams to dig further, and I'm usually pleasantly surprised with what I catch on that.
Excellent.
Awesome. This has been a great chat. Thank you so much for spending your Monday evening, or at least an hour or so with us. Sorry we went over time.
Thank you. It's been great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Fun.
So before we go, website neonbloom.band.
Yeah.
To check out all of your stuff, all of your music, I believe, is on there. And if people want to like digitally buy your stuff, where do you want them to go?
Bandcamp Fridays.
Bandcamp. There you go. Bandcamp Fridays.
Yeah.
Now, is that an every Is that an every Friday thing, or is that?
I think it's once a month or something. Yeah, we just get these emails that's like Bandcamp Fridays coming up, and and then we should advertise it more. But that's a good time for anyone to go buy music from any band, really.
Yep.
Awesome. Check them out. 100%. I think it's neonbloom.bandcamp.com to buy the music. Best place to buy music digitally.
Yep, or just on like social media, we're Neon Bloom Music, like on Instagram, on Facebook, or whatever. If you want to follow our shows or what we're up to, we're going to be posting a bunch of Japan content, I'm sure, soon. If you want to follow along, check us out on Instagram.
And we're super excited about some recordings we have in the works, so don't go too far. We got some good stuff coming on through the pipeline.
We are here. We'd love to have you guys come back on the show. Best of luck in Japan. Really looking forward to following your band. This is awesome. This has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome to the music. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.